Welcome to World Alert Updates. Subscribe and press the bell icon for more updates. The night of September 10, 2025 was unnervingly still near the ruins of Kherson. The air was thick with anticipation, as if the battered city itself was holding its breath, waiting for the next chapter of violence to unfold. A sliver of moon cast skeletal shadows across the scarred landscape, a deceptive calm before chaos. The silence was broken only by the distant crackle of burning debris and the occasional echo of a far-off explosion, reminders of the relentless conflict that had ravaged the region for months. Just after 2 a.m., Ukrainian listening posts detected unfamiliar heavy machinery rumbling in the distance. The ground itself seemed to tremble, and the tension among the defenders grew palpable as they strained to identify the source. Through thermal imaging, the scale became clear: 50 Chinese Type 99. 8 tanks and over 100 support vehicles, a metallic serpent slicing through the plains. The convoy's heat signatures glowed bright against the cold night, revealing the sheer magnitude of the force advancing toward Ukrainian lines. This was no probing force, it was a spearhead, aiming to punch through Ukrainian defenses and establish a new front. The enemy's intent was unmistakable: to break the stalemate and seize control of the southern approaches. The convoy sped along a narrow winding road flanked by marshy forests and low hills, a natural bottleneck, long marked as a kill zone by Ukrainian strategists. Every twist and turn had been mapped, every choke point measured for maximum effect. Chinese commanders, confident in their satellite intelligence, drove straight into a meticulously prepared trap. Their columns moved with discipline and assurance, unaware that every movement was being tracked and anticipated. Every Ukrainian soldier and drone pilot knew the stakes. If this force broke through, the southern front could collapse. The defenders' nerves were stretched taut, their eyes fixed on screens and scopes, waiting for the signal to strike. Stopping it would require flawless execution and perfect timing. Each team rehearsed their roles in silence, synchronizing watches and whispering final words of encouragement, knowing that a single mistake could doom the entire defense. As the lead tank crossed a hidden trigger point, the entire Ukrainian defensive network sprang to life. The trap was set. Artillery crews braced for recoil, missile teams locked onto targets, and the first salvos arced into the night. The fate of the region would be decided in the next few hours. In underground shelters, civilians huddled together, listening to the distant thunder of battle, praying for survival as the world above erupted. The world was about to witness a new kind of battle. Newsrooms scrambled to cover the unfolding events, and military analysts watched live feeds, aware that the outcome here could reshape the entire conflict. The silence shattered as the operation began. Explosions and gunfire lit up the darkness, marking the start of a brutal confrontation that would echo far beyond the borders of Kherson. Long before the convoy arrived, Ukraine owned the sky. High-altitude drones mapped every movement, feeding real-time data to command centers where AI analyzed enemy patterns and weaknesses. Closer to the ground, nimble Leleka 100 drones darted through the clouds, pinpointing fuel trucks, command vehicles, and patrols. Ukrainian commanders saw not just numbers, but the convoy's entire structure: fuel, ammo, command, and security. The arrival of Chinese main battle tanks marked a shocking escalation, a direct entry into the conflict. For Ukraine, this was a test of technology, strategy, and resolve. The plan, codenamed Viper's Nest, was activated, a multi-stage operation relying on deception, precision, and surprise. The first phase would sow confusion and cripple the convoy's vulnerable assets. The unseen watchers had provided the targets. Now, the hunters would strike. The night's quiet was about to end. In modern warfare, the first shot is often not a shell, but a signal. A silent, invisible strike that can change the course of battle before a single bullet is fired. Ukrainian electronic warfare units unleashed a wave of ghost signals, broadcasting fake electronic signatures that mimicked a Ukrainian armored column advancing to the west. These digital phantoms appeared convincingly real on enemy radar screens. Chinese commanders, believing the deception, took the bait. They hastily redeployed their tanks and shifted their forces, thinning out their defenses in other critical sectors to counter the supposed threat. To reinforce the illusion, Ukrainian operators flooded the airwaves with spoofed radio chatter, simulating frantic orders and urgent reports. This created a window of confusion and uncertainty among Chinese ranks. As Chinese attention and firepower focused westward, they failed to notice the real danger quietly approaching from above. modified drones engineered for stealth and silence swooped in over the unsuspecting convoy. Instead of explosives, they carried sophisticated electronic jammers and network intruders. These drones targeted key command vehicles, magnetically attaching compact devices that flooded Chinese networks with static, severing vital lines of communication and disrupting command structures. Suddenly, the convoy was deaf and blind. Tank commanders found themselves isolated, unable to receive or relay orders, while leaders were cut off from their units. The once coordinated force quickly descended into chaos, with units out of sync and soldiers confused about their next move. The digital decapitation was swift and devastating. Command centers stared at blank screens, realizing too late that their communications had been completely severed. The enemy was now blinded, its nervous system cut, unable to see or respond to the unfolding threat. With the enemy paralyzed, Ukrainian troops prepared their heavy weapons. Artillery crews loaded shells, ready to exploit the chaos they had engineered. As dawn broke, the real attack was about to begin, an assault made possible by deception, technology, and the silent war for control of the digital battlefield. With Chinese command in disarray, the main drone assault began. The confusion in the command center was palpable. Orders were shouted, but few could keep up with the rapidly changing situation on the ground. From hidden hills, Ukrainian operators launched a relentless swarm of FPV kamikaze drones, agile, low-cost, and deadly, each carrying an RPG warhead. The operators, hidden and focused, guided their machines with precision, unleashing a new era of warfare. Their targets were clear: the convoy's lifelines, fuel and ammunition trucks, the very arteries that kept the armored spearhead moving forward. Chinese air defenses, designed for larger threats like jets and helicopters, were quickly overwhelmed by the sheer number and tiny size of the drones. The radar screens lit up with dozens of fast-moving blips, impossible to track or intercept all at once. The first drone struck a fuel tanker, igniting a massive explosion that lit up the night sky and triggered a deadly chain reaction. Ammunition trucks detonated in quick succession, turning the narrow road into a corridor of fire and chaos. The explosions echoed for miles, shaking the resolve of everyone nearby. Chinese soldiers scrambled desperately for cover, but the inferno left nowhere to hide. The heat and shockwaves forced them to abandon their positions, running for their lives. The supply line was obliterated. Tanks and vehicles were trapped between burning wreckage, unable to advance or retreat. Their armor was now useless, cut off from fuel, ammunition, and any hope of new orders. The once mighty convoy was paralyzed. The drone swarm had broken the convoy's back without ever engaging a single tank directly, proving the power of modern asymmetric warfare. The first part of the trap had sprung with devastating success, catching the enemy completely off guard and sowing panic. In just a matter of minutes, the battlefield was utterly transformed: smoking wreckage, scattered soldiers, and the unmistakable mark of a new kind of war. Amid the chaos, a new threat crept from the forest: experimental Ukrainian ground robots. Small, silent, and remotely operated, these six-wheeled machines carried magnetically locking-shaped charges. Their mission sabotaged the immobilized Type 99A tanks. The robots approached from blind spots, placing charges on engine decks and tracks. The explosives weren't detonated immediately. The goal was to disable, not destroy. Within 20 minutes, over half the tanks were tagged. These robots, expendable and fearless, executed their mission with precision. The tank crews, distracted by the inferno, never saw the threat below. The machines slipped back into the woods, leaving the convoy sitting on a powder keg. The battlefield was now primed for the final blow. The Chinese armor was neutered from within. As drones and robots struck, Ukrainian special forces infiltrated the convoy's perimeter. Camouflaged and silent, they neutralized sentries and cleared a path for the main assault. Moving in pairs, they bypassed or eliminated guard posts, gathering intelligence and sabotaging key assets. Remote detonated explosives were planted on machine guns and radar vehicles. Their actions further crippled Chinese defenses, ensuring a fragmented response. Once objectives were met, the teams melted into the darkness, taking up overwatch positions. They became spotters for the coming artillery barrage, relaying real-time updates. The enemy's first layer of defense was peeled back without raising alarm. The battlefield was prepared for the decisive strike. The human edge had set the stage for victory. With the path clear, Ukrainian commanders unleashed the storm. Precision artillery, guided by special forces and drones, boxed in the convoy with surgical strikes. Ukrainian T-84 Oplot tanks and BMP-3S flanked from the east, using the terrain for cover. Chinese crews, realizing the true threat too late, tried to respond. At the command, Ukrainian operators detonated the charges planted by ground robots. Explosions crippled dozens of Type 99A tanks, immobilizing them instantly. The Ukrainian armor now faced a disorganized, trapped enemy. Tankers picked off the disabled Chinese tanks one by one. What could have been a bloody slugfest became a one-sided rout. The multi-layered plan, from digital deception to robotic sabotage, culminated in overwhelming superiority. The Chinese force was shattered. The kill zone had become a graveyard. The battle's outcome was now certain. With the convoy destroyed, one target remained, the forward supply depot. Bayraktar TB-2 drones, guided by special forces, struck the depot with precision bombs. Fuel and ammunition stores erupted in massive explosions, erasing the logistical hub in minutes. The Chinese objective was now unattainable. Back at the kill zone, surviving Chinese soldiers began to surrender. Ukrainian commanders ordered a ceasefire. Medical teams, under armored protection, aided both their own and Chinese wounded. Prisoners were treated humanely in line with international law. This act of mercy contrasted sharply with the battle's brutality. Ukraine's discipline and humanity sent a powerful message to the world. The fighting ended, but the message was just beginning to resonate. The world had witnessed not just victory, but restraint. As dawn broke, the road to Kherson was a monument to a failed gamble. Ukraine's victory was a masterclass in modern warfare. Technology and human skill perfectly fused. The operation sent shockwaves worldwide, proving a smaller, agile force could defeat a larger power. China's top-tier equipment was undone by superior strategy and innovation. The Viper's nest would be studied for years as a model of asymmetric warfare. Yet, the most enduring message was restraint and humanity in victory. By aiding wounded enemies and treating prisoners with dignity, Ukraine projected moral clarity. Their goal was not conquest but defense and peace. The battle became a symbol of a new paradigm: precision, discipline, and the preservation of human values. On that scarred road, hope emerged that technology could win wars, and perhaps one day, make them less brutal.